Firstly, why do you guys keep taking advice from the people on TikTok? Do the people on TikTok seem okay? Much to my friend's annoyment, I am not an avid TikTok user, so I had the unfortunate pleasure of finding the love hypothesis on my own. I thought it was underwhelming, quite boring, and honestly, I didn't even finish it. So imagine my surprise when I was watching a video by Voice Memos from the Void. Gonna leave that video somewhere. And this book is wildly popular. And not only is it wildly popular, it was fan fiction. Raylo fan fiction at that. And it was like, at that moment, everything clicked. I could see clearly now the rain was gone. The veil had been lifted. I was like, oh, this is starting to make sense. Now, disclaimers. This video will include spoilers for The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. You know what? Is it Ali Hazelwood? Let me make sure I'm giving y'all right information. Yes, it was. Damn, my memory is on point. Anyways, and if you didn't read the story, it might be a little bit confusing. Or if you're like me, who just likes to watch reviews or analysis on things that I've never watched or never touched a day in my life, you can continue to watch, but it might be a bit confusing, so fair warning. A short summary, however, is basically Olive, the main character of our story, is forced into a fake dating type relationship with a professor at her school who is so obviously Adam Driver. Like, that's the one thing. Like, how did I not realize that this was Raylo fanfiction? Like, his name is Adam. Sis, did you even try to change it? And what's funny is when I first found the book, right, and I seen the man on the cover, and I'm like, it's usually whenever they make these young adult romance books covers, they're very generic and bland. And when I seen him, I was like, he looks familiar. She gets forced into this fake relationship with one of the most infamous professors at her school, Adam, and because of her best friend, how do I explain this? Because her best friend wants to go out with a man that Olive has already been on one date with, but she didn't really like, and you know, wanting to appear, yeah, you know what I'm saying, to girl code, didn't want to go out with him. So to please her friend, or to make her friend feel better about, you know, going out with her her ex, she lied to her and told her she was going out on a date with somebody, and obviously there was nobody, and she ran into while she was supposed to be out on said date. So instead, she decided the best option to do at that moment was to turn around and kiss the very first man that she saw, which just happened to be Adam. And one thing led to another, and now they are in a fake dating relationship. And I just want to get this out the way. First of all, my dislike for this book, oh, by the way, it's bad. My dislike for this book is not because it is a fake dating relationship, a fake dating trope. I love fake dating tropes. I think that's on the top of my list. It's gonna be fake dating. I don't know the rest, but fake dating is up there, okay? And how do you mess up something as easy as a fake dating trope? So, as stated before, I was not aware of this book's former fanfiction status until recently. Now, I by no means am saying that this work is bad because it is fanfiction. In fact, I love fanfiction. I'm an avid fanfiction reader. I have friends who are fanfiction. I'm sorry. I love fanfiction. I'm an avid fanfiction reader. I even dabble in writing some myself. If I'm being quite honest with myself, a lot of the couples that I support is because of the fandom. They do an amazing job of taking these couples and crafting stories around them to make it more interesting, or even better a lot of the times. But with that being said, it is not as fan fiction and published work is not as interchangeable as we would like to believe. You cannot just take somebody else's intellectual property and switch around a couple character names and craft a whole story out of it and still expect the average reader to understand or even like your work. The structure of fan fiction is inherently different from the structure of published work. With fan fiction, we already have a baseline to jump off of with these characters. We know how these characters look, we know how these characters act, in some cases we even know how they sound, and most importantly, we already have an active interest in this couple getting together. What's going on? Developing the romance and therefore the interest in a couple is a huge part of the romance genre in general. And with fan fiction, that work has already been done for you. So it can be a bit off-putting and jarring when you are just making your own work or making your own work out of this work and you did not put back in that foundation. Does that make any sense? Like, the characters need to be rebuilt up. Like, we don't know these characters, we don't know how they think, we don't know how they act, you know? Like, I don't give a fuck about Olive and Adam. I'm not a Reylo fan, you know? I haven't watched Star Wars a day in my life. So for the average person who is just like, oh, I'm just a casual romance reader, when they come into this, they're not coming with the same expectation as, you know, other fanfiction fan. And a part of me feels like Ali Hazelwood understands this a bit, because a common gripe that I have heard from people who have read it, or even myself, is like this lack of world building, how everyone feels flat, like nobody's fully fleshed out. It's just things happening. I don't know if this makes any sense. I'm sorry, I'm a college dropout. It felt like there was barely any work put into these characters to get the reader to understand, much less like these characters. I also wanted to note on the side characters, which was not lost on me, that all of them were either people of color or minorities, or sometimes both. And this is something that just doesn't sit right with me in general. I hate when an author or writer tries to include a cast of colorful individuals around the titular white straight couple, but never actually puts the work into developing these characters. They feel not interesting, bland, and quite frankly annoying at times. It's frustrating that, you know, Olive's Asian best friend can only be a girl boss, you know, woman in STEM type of person, or that her roommate can only be the sassy gay black best friend. You know, it's like, why is this the go-to when developing a story that has people of color in it? Is it not already enough that these characters aren't worthy enough to, you know, leave their designated main female support group spot to be into the main spotlight, but they also can't even be fully fleshed out characters? I'm sorry, but it rubs me the wrong way when I read a book in which all the surrounding characters have so much potential to be so much more interesting than the main straight white cis couple that we always have, and it's just they're sidelined into being just a caricature. Another thing that just didn't feel right to me was just the romance in general. Like, this is a romance book. At the very least, that's what we should be here for. That's what should be working in your favor. I love romance. I think it is a overhated genre and gets a lot of shit that it doesn't deserve, but it's books like this that make me think, oh yeah, no, this is totally warranted, like this is deserved. There is this thing in romance that I like to call the inciting romantic incident. Basically, it's the scenes that really push forth the plot, and makes us really want to root for these characters to get together. It's the heavy rain scene in Pride and Prejudice. You can even say it's the draw me like one of your French girls scene in the Titanic. It's even the car accident scene in Twilight. You know, it is what the intense adrenaline-packed chase scene for action movies are for romance. It's the scenes like that that's supposed to get the butterflies going, that's supposed to get you on the edge of your seat, that's supposed to get you really your skin raising, you know? But unfortunately, the scenes in The Love Hypothesis that are supposed to be the things that push the plot forward fall short. And by that, I mean, I don't know if it was just me, but as I was reading it, I was like, a lot of these situations feel a bit immature. It's kind of mean, but a bit fanfic-esque, I should say. Like the whole forced proximity that doesn't really make sense but works for the purpose of our story thing was played up way too many times. Like the whole Olive has to sit on Adam's lap because there isn't enough space, or like the Olive has to rub sunscreen all over Adam's body because skin cancer is bad, or another one, Olive has to go kiss Adam in front of everyone on the street because On is a bitch. Olive has to share a room with Adam because yet again On is a bitch. Like, it was an obvious trend that if all of the moments, all of the inciting romantic incidents were forced upon Olive, and I get it, they're fake dating, so we have to have a reason for these people, for them to act the way that they do. But when majority of those incidents are, you know, because it was forced upon them, it makes the interaction feel less genuine, or like even it makes their overall romantic development feels less genuine than it should. I also just feel like in general these scenes did not give what Allie think it was giving. Like, it wasn't giving me butterflies when Olive had to sit on Adam's lap. Instead, I was like, is this appropriate? That's just one gripe that I had with the book, period. Is like, because they're supposed to be, you know, Olive, she's supposed to be an undergrad at Stanford University. Adam is a professor at Stanford University. Like, this is not, you know, ICDCU. This is a world-class university. And it's like, I could only suspend my disbelief so much because when the whole lap sitting scene came up and I was reading it, I was like, oh, this is what we're doing at Stanford? At Stanford? This is what we're doing? And I realized, I was like, oh, okay, this is fake. This is fiction. And it's not that I'm expecting perfect, you know, realism from fiction, but it's just like, come on now. You guys are scientists. Like, don't you guys have lives to save? Like, and our next team. If you know me, I say fuck respectability politics all the way. But with that being said, I know them niggas at Stanford, it's all about that shit. Like, a bitch can't even walk past on campus with a pink wig. But you really expect me to believe that a student can sit on a professor's lap and just everyone just goes about their day and nobody says anything? Okay. I just feel like overall, the inciting romantic incidents, there wasn't enough of actual bonding scenes. And don't get me wrong, there was, you know, a couple scenes of them going to a coffee shop and talking to, talk about their feelings or whatever. But there wasn't enough of like, man, I need to see these characters get together now. And I feel like this is where it goes back to this is where it comes back to the fact that this book was originally fan fiction. Like, you can get away with a lot of these scenes in fan fiction, because as stated, we already have an active interest in this couple, but when we don't have that foundation, a scene like Olive sitting on Adam's lap, I know I keep bringing that up, but it's just one of the easiest ones to bring up. It doesn't result in me going, oh my gosh, this is so hot, this is so sexy. It feels more like when your auntie's a little too touchy-feely with her boyfriend at the family reunion, awkward and quite embarrassing. The last thing I kind of want to bring up here is the tropes in this story. Like I stated before, as I was reading it, I kept thinking, is this allowed? The whole teacher-professor-student relationship thing, I feel like we were kind of getting away from that. Like, we were done from that. I feel like we all kind of agreed that that relationship is inappropriate. But yet again, this is like the second book I have read, or not read recently, but read within the past year, where it featured a student-teacher relationship that was kind of just glossed over like that. And it was stated, like, because Allie knows that in today's social climate, that we have pretty much all agreed that teacher-student relationships should be abolished. But obviously, tropes are tropes for a reason. There is a reason why all of the early teenage drama shows all featured a student-teacher storyline. She knows that it is alluring in some type of form, but she also knows that she can't just include it without trying to explain her way out of it. So instead, she just says that, oh, it's okay because it's not like he's her professor, as if that's the only reason why this relationship is inappropriate. It's really giving, when those stories back then would be like, oh, this student-teacher relationship is okay because, yeah, he's a teacher, but he's just fresh out of college, and she's, stayed back. It's like, that's a problem, but that's not what the main problem of the story, of the relationship is. It's the power dynamic. Although he's not her professor and he doesn't directly grade her work, we're acting like her professors aren't literally his peers. And we even see that manifest later on in the story when his literal best friend is the man that Olive needs to impress to get the funding for her research. Like, I'm sorry, I'm still not ever going to be okay with a teacher-student relationship. Like, nobody on campus had anything to say about that shit. I'm sorry, this is where I cannot suspend my disbelief anymore. Nobody had a comment about that. Nobody was like, damn, is it kind of weird that Professor such and such is dating such and such? So mad my bun came out. Like, honestly, I've just been having this problem with a lot of self-aware media, period, because I didn't say this book is very self-aware. There's scenes where it's like a wink nod at the camera, or at the reader, I should say, that that this is fiction, obviously. But yeah, as I was saying, like, a lot of self-aware media now, they still want to include these tropes. Even later on in the book, there is a scene, and hey, so editing, sorry, I know right here I did say SA, and I'm gonna say it for the rest of the video, or at least for this portion. I think the more correct term would be sexual harassment, so just replace anytime I say SA with the more appropriate term. my problem wasn't that the scene was included, because of course, you know, women in the workforce go through situations like this all the time. I just felt like I just felt like the scene was included for us to have, you know, the titular, oh, my man is going to protect me, or Adam is going to, you know, stand up for Olive and be a macho man and have the sexy, ooh, he would physically harm another man for me type scene. And it's like, okay, but a lot of the women in the real world, there is no Adam, you know, there is no man that's going to stand up to the discrimination that they face. And I just feel like it's kind of disingenuous to include a scene such as serious as that, to have it really kind of be turned into a clapping session for Adam is how I felt personally. And not to say that this was Ali's intentions, it's just how it came off to me, and it just really doesn't really sit right with me. I'm not gonna lie, like, it's used as a way. I feel like the whole character of Adam's best friend, who's the asshole who said some horrible things to Olive, was kind of used as a way to juxtapose, you know, Adam from him, as a way to show that, yeah, he's one of the good ones. And although he does also have a level of power over Olive, he will never do anything without her permission. But it's like, you know, asshole over here, it's like, oh, he's a piece of shit, you know, be like an Adam in this situation. And kind of reminds me of the whole Me Too situation, when it was just first starting to be brought out in the light more. And a couple of stories, I believe it was one with Brad Pitt, and it was like Brad Pitt protected his girlfriend from, you know, Harvey Weinstein, or I'm not sure, it was something like that. And I just remember hearing a lot of people like, oh wow, Brad Pitt, he's such a good dude. And it's like, I don't know, it just, things like that don't really sit right with me, like, because it's taking the attention from, you know, the victim and kind of placing it on this hero. Yeah, I don't know, that's just me though. Maybe I'm looking too much into it, who knows. All in all, look at me using those transitional words. In conclusion, do I think that The Love Hypothesis is the worst romance book to ever exist? No, far from it actually. I don't even think it's the worst fan fiction to exist. Fan fiction turned published work to exist. We've got Gabriel Inferno for that. Thanks or no thank you, Kenny JD, because you're the only reason why I know that book exists. However, I do think that the success of this book kind of speaks to the larger problem of fan fiction turned published work. I'm seeing a pattern of these books being published, or these fan fictions becoming very popular on, you know, their respective websites. AO3, where my AO3 girlies at. And then once they transition over, they have a lot of success in the beginning, but eventually the success dies down, and then we really get to evaluate this book and see that it's kind of ass, you know. And it's been happening with just about every, or at least every known fan fiction turned public work that we know of. And it kind of leads me to think, is it just that fan fiction is bad, or that fan fiction cannot be turned into published work? And I don't really particularly think that that's the problem. I feel like there's no doubt in my mind that The Love Hypothesis was a magnificent Reylo find. Like, I'm pretty sure Reylo fans were scouring AO3 until they, you know, happened to find or come across The Love Hypothesis, and it was wonderful. It was great and they loved it. There's no doubt in my mind that this was a good Reylo find. I'm pretty sure this book was on the top of every Reylo fanfiction recommendation list. But I do think that it is easy to be the biggest fish in a small pond. Majority of fanfiction writers are teenage girls. And of course, I do have to say that just because they are young writers don't mean that they don't have the capabilities to write fantastic work. You know, I have cried many of times. It's just that a lot of these girls haven't even passed English 2 yet, or a lot of these individuals haven't even passed English 2 yet, you know? So it's easier for someone like Ali Hazelwood to come in and write this book about this couple and it rise to the top of this small select batch of stories. You know, in fan fiction there's only about a couple 100,000, if you're lucky, a couple 100,000 of stories written about your preferred couple, and out of those thousands only about a good handful of those are actually worth being published or actually written well or understandable or legible, you know. And I just feel like it's easy for these works, or like a story like The Love Hypothesis, to succeed when there really is so little to work with to begin with. I'm pretty sure finding The Love Hypothesis was like finding a Jane Austen book in a pile of Colleen Hoovers. Oh my gosh, that was mean. I didn't mean that. I'm sorry. But as I was stating before, it's sad, but the truth is that in the fan fiction world, there's just a lot less books or stories to work with. But however, once these books leave that bubble, that fan fiction bubble, and go out into, you know, a larger market, there are millions of books out there. And unfortunately, these previous fan fiction works just aren't holding up as well compared to other works. Yeah. Now, do I think that there is no way that fan fiction can succeed in the published realm? I don't know the right word for that. We have seen it happen before, you know. A lot of our favorite works are basically fan fiction. I just think that the way that we are going about it now, it's not really working. I think we just gotta kind of reevaluate the ones that we choose to, the ones that get chosen to be published. And yeah, I don't really think that there's a solution to this. And honestly, I don't even think Ali Hazelwood is that bad of a writer. I think that she can definitely go back to the drawing board and, you know, create a cohesive work that isn't bad, you know. And obviously a lot of people did enjoy The Love Hypothesis for what it was, but we also know that people don't always have the best taste. I'm gonna cut that out. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on this situation. You can go ahead and leave a comment, a like, or subscribe if you want. I'm not gonna force you. We're all about free will over here. Yeah, thank you for watching.
Sayonara, bye bye. Please take care of your
Hold up. And the next thing, what does it say about Adam that his best friend was a sexual predator? Now, I'm not saying that people don't end up becoming friends with not so good people. Shit like that happens all the time. You know, you never really know. But niggas could be friends with literal predators and still be deemed as one of the good ones. But when a bitch has a friend that is sexually active, I'm a hoe. Okay.